Hello all, greetings, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm broadcasting live from Dubai, Deep Dive Dubai, beautiful background, bubbles coming along. We even have some good friends drifting around in the sunken city behind me. Some of you may know a few of our guest appearances. Wait, I see a light. What do we see here? Oh, who is that? That appears to be Richard Lundgren. Mr. Lundgren, off in his 200-foot, 60-meter pool playing around. There I see Jesper Kohler just doing a little bit of reading, a little light reading with our recently published Explore magazine, the Exploration Report. Say hi, guys, wave to the crowd. All right, good stuff, having fun in there. 14.5 million liters, big and deep, and we've got a lot of guest appearances coming on throughout the day today. We'll let them get back to business. Enjoy. Hopefully you're joining us, and I don't see any questions yet. I'm already feeling anxious because I want to answer some great questions and interact with you guys a little bit today. We've got a great lineup over the next two sessions. We have a morning session now, morning actually for us in Dubai. In the United States, it's evening, and most of Europe is probably still asleep. All right, now we start seeing Singapore. Greetings, Jimmy. And then we have an afternoon Dubai time, which will be waking up some of the rest of the world as well. And we look forward to trying to mix up the spectrum a little bit in terms of presentations we'll be giving. We've got a couple guest appearances. We've got a number of people coming in from all over the world. We have a number of video submissions excited all around the world. We've got Canada, Santa Monica, Singapore already. So great to see you guys. Welcome to you. I think some of you just logged on. You missed Richard and Jesper who came by from the background. They're busy reading their Explorer magazine. Hi, Michael from New Zealand. Great to have you here. As I said, we've got some exciting stuff this morning. We've got a little over an hour of content for this session. And those of you who have the opportunity to join us for two sessions, we will be also broadcasting later on today, early morning for some of you, but I encourage you to come by because we'll have some new people, some new communities. From Turkey, Nevken, nice to see you. We're getting great response here. You can put your questions in the chat as I'm going along. I have Dorada here as well. Dorada Turney is going to come say hello to everyone. Hello, Dorada. She's standing by at the ready. She'll pop in quite a few times during our live stream, and she's ready also to capture some of your questions as we go along. All right, so without any further ado, I guess I can begin so that we don't get too far off schedule before we even start. I've got a little Mission 2030 discussion I'd like to have. Some of you might have heard about our planning stages for Mission 2030, and Nico, if you can throw that up when you get the chance. I wanted to use this opportunity to introduce the idea of Mission 2030. And this is really a 10-year planning that we were doing for GUE. You know, when the organization started, start at the first slide, Nico, please. When the organization started, really as a group of dedicated and passionate explorers, we had a kind of a vision of a global organization that would spread across the world and do a lot of great exploratory diving. And then over time, we quickly started to realize that there were a lot of things that we might be able to contribute from an industry perspective. Nico, you're still not on slide number 1. So I think that you know, the first 20 years of our efforts really produced a lot of valuable activity, enhancements in standards and standardization, hopefully enhancements in safety and development. And we really grew organically throughout that time, developing many of these different aspects throughout. But after some number of years, Nico, you're still not on slide 1. So, after some number of years, there we go, thank you. Now you're good. Now let's go down a couple slides. Sorry, folks. So after a couple years, let's go first couple slides, Nico. There's my evolving organically as a group of explorers over 20 years. And then we decided what's the best way that we might be able to really pioneer the organization and prepare it for the future. We began conceptualizing an idea for a broader mission planning that would take us through the next 10 years. We originally wanted something really very grandiose, a major sort of series of accomplishments The more we dug into this, the more we started to realize that a lot of the value in GUE is really at its base and its core. I'm going to talk about that for a second. Go ahead, Nico, next slide. But one thing that did tend to interrupt the Mission 2030 planning, we had really just gotten started. We were about 6 months into the planning phases, doing a lot of our analysis and conceptualization. We were about to gather together a group of 25 of us in Amsterdam for a planning session, a workshop for people all over the world. Yes, it was intended to be working even though it was in Amsterdam. But then, as all of you know, in 2020, all of our lives changed, at least in pretty strong measure. A pandemic has hit us and is still plaguing us a bit. Throughout many parts of the world are open and closed, and unfortunately this pandemic looks to be with us in some form or another for some years to come. So that caused some revisioning and some reconsideration about exactly how we might try to steer the organization in the near term. We were looking for a variety of options to allow us to present a dynamic future thinking plan, but also to pivot and adjust as conditions evolved. Next slide. And so during our evaluation phase, we went through a pretty careful analysis of the organization, looking at risks and consultations with a variety of key principals through the organization, instructors, instructor trainers, community members, long-term members, explorers in the organization, sent out a number of questionnaires, did a detailed market analysis. We really spent quite a lot of time trying to evaluate the pros and the cons of the organization, the risks present, and the strengths and weaknesses, broadly speaking, both internally at headquarters and globally. Okay, Nico? And so ultimately circling in many different directions and evaluating the organization at a broad range of altitudes, we ultimately came to the firm conclusion that community remained at the core, the key of our organization, and that's part of why I'm just at least introducing the 2030 mission planning here at this session, because I wanted really this community of people coming on to join us all to recognize that we see the tremendous value and the true distinguishing characteristic of our group is that we're a tight-knit collection of global communities, and that's really our big strength. And as an, you know, towards building and developing those communities in the future, which is appropriate given here we are at Community Day. Long-term initiative that we have been developing now, and you'll start to see progressive messaging released. We'd like to get more and more people involved, and so we're really looking for curious.
Can you refresh the page?
A little bit of technical challenges and trying to identify where we're at. It seems to be live again. Be good if somebody pop in the chat window, let me know if I'm present and you can hear me.
JJ, you're good to go.
All right, good stuff. So I'm gathering that we lost most of what I said about Community Day, about Mission 2030, but I will summarize quickly by just saying after a rigorous analysis organizationally over many months, we've really decided to work hard to try to reinvigorate our communities, easy for me to say, and to try to work in a way to not only elevate the communities, but also link the various communities around the world together. And we are looking for people to join our effort, both change influencers and regional coordinators, and we'll publish a link allowing everyone to sign up. We really hope some of you will join us, and we look forward to your support. Please, pretty please. It seems useful on Community Day to announce that, but now I would like to see if we can bring in Marcus, speaking about communities. Can we bring in Marcus? Great to see you, mate.
Hi, Jared. Hi, all. Hope you're all well.
It seems fully appropriate to bring someone in who has spent so much of their personal time and been so dedicated to help us growing not only the local UK community, regional UK community, but also the community globally. And it's a big part of our Mission 2030 planning, and we're really looking to reinvigorate communities globally and really try to accentuate those that are already doing a great job and to bolster those that aren't. What can you tell us about our global efforts from a community perspective?
Yeah, I think, Jared, it's really exciting that the 2030 work has highlighted communities at the centre of what we do, really, because they're so fantastic at supporting, in particular, all the project diving that's done around the world, but also just getting people out and diving, which is great. Over the last 12 months or so, we've done quite a bit of work around giving a bit of structure to some of the communities, so things like getting the registration working properly. So if there are communities out there who are doing lots of diving and aren't registered with us, then please reach out to HQ and do that. But also really excited about the next steps we're going to take in providing them with more support and just hopefully really extending the support that they get and therefore supporting their efforts and highlighting them more to the communities around the world.
Excellent, thanks, that's great. And we've got a number of initiatives underway in addition to these regional coordinators that we're soliciting for. We'll put an application there looking for regional coordinators as well as change influencers, both which are pretty critical to Mission 2030 and its core precept, which is the Community Day building. So I think that's great. Anything else you want to say to everyone, Marcus?
No, just that we're really looking forward to an exciting day, the second one of these community days that we've run. I'm really grateful to everyone who's pulled it together and will support over the next 24, 48 hours. So looking forward to a good couple of days.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much. Next time you have to join us from the pool. I don't know, many people either came late or we had some technical difficulties. Richard Lundgren and Jesper Kohler joined us. They were busy reading their Explorer magazine. So hopefully we can keep them on track and get them to come by, maybe even dry. So next time from the pool, thanks very much, Marcus. You're a star. We really appreciate all your effort. Take care.
Thanks, Jared.
All right, gang. So we have a couple videos that we'd like to show, some welcome messages from a few of our communities around the world. I believe the first one is our Singapore video, so it'd be great if we could pop that up. We've got Singapore Tulum.
See the horizon, turn us to thousands, and we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands, and on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays, and on.
All right, great stuff. Some really nice videos there. I think those are going to be great submission potential candidates for some of the GUE TV videos we might be coming forward. I want to talk about that contest in a bit. Singapore, Tulum, Turkey. Some of that early Turkey footage is actually from one of our early 1995 projects, which is still very highly memorable to both myself and Todd Kincaid. So great stuff. Thanks, gang, for coming in. I think we also have the opportunity to bring in Ryan. Hopefully we can bring in Ryan live.
Today
Ryan,
from Australia.
Yeah.
Supposed to be coming to you from a boat, but that got cancelled. So
awesome. It's very good to see you. I'm kind of, I really miss seeing everybody in live, but I mean, this is still better than nothing. Where exactly are you right now?
I'm in a local reserve, nature reserve near my house, really. We just decided to go bushwalking instead of diving, seeing the diving was cancelled. We'll pick up the diving again tomorrow. The team's getting together again tomorrow. So.
Okay, excellent. Is the conditions or just logistics for the cancellation?
Conditions, yeah, wind and swell. So it was postponed at least till tomorrow. So.
Oh, all right. Well, at least you're bushwhacking, and if you can't dive, how are things going on in the community there? A little bit challenging.
Yeah, things are challenging all over the world, I guess. We're going diving as often as we can in between lockdowns and whatever else is happening to manage our COVID plan, I guess, till everyone's vaccinated at least. But generally speaking, things are going all right. Depends where you are in the country, I suppose. Where I am is fairly open at the moment. That could change, I suppose. Yeah.
So remember that cave diving is the ultimate form of social distancing. So still fully appropriate, no mask required since you're breathing a respirator anyway, right?
I think there's a muddy cave somewhere in this state somewhere. I could probably find that.
Yeah, a couple of them indeed. All right, cheers, mate. It was great to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks a lot.
Bushwalking, and I hope your activities tomorrow go well. Be sure to get us some pictures and video of the community.
Will do. See you later. Good luck, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it. All right, and I believe we have now a video also from the Netherlands. Let's bring that forward, and then I've got a few other things to talk to you about. All right, I'm getting hungry just looking at that. Nice barbecue, a lot of great activity. I'm sure there's some really nice activity going on this weekend as well. In the Netherlands, a really strong community, so hello to everyone there. I did want to let you know, if you've got any questions, please send them in. We're going to take an open session. I'm going to bring Dorada back, and we're going to answer any questions that you might have. Try to give us some we can't answer. Give us some really challenging ones. We'll play Stump Dorada. I'll see if I can come up with some as well, so we hope to hear from you then. I did want to take a moment, even though it is an upbeat and really positive event that we try to run over Community Day weekend. But I think it's very appropriate for us to acknowledge a tragic loss. One of our own family members, Stephen Ho, who lost his life very recently while diving. And our thoughts and prayers go out to Stephen and his family. Really tragic loss, a really strong member of our community, very, very well known and liked on a global basis. We are, of course, still continuing with a very careful analysis of that accident. And at the moment, the report still hasn't been released from the police, so we're not in a position really to talk about any real details. But we do want to acknowledge his loss, and also that some of the earliest reports appear to call upon some slippage that might be occurring in the standards that really keep us safe. And we'll be detailing this in a much more careful way. Sometimes these lessons are really painful and they're not meant to cast a negative light on anyone, but they're important from a learning perspective. So for now, though, our thoughts and prayers just go out to Steve's family and all of his friends and loved ones. We want to acknowledge that these standards that we've developed over the last 20 plus years help to keep us safe, and we'd like to ask all of you to really recommit to those and pay attention accordingly. Okay, so we are moving on into a real idol of mine, actually. Dr. Alessandro Moroni has been a tremendous contributor to the sport of diving, and especially to the science of decompression. He spent his entire life doing this. His daughter, Laura, is also a tremendous contributor vis-a-vis Dan. The organization, Dan Europe, is a tremendous contribution to the sport, and one that we wholeheartedly support. I'd love to bring Dr. Moroni on, and we're going to hear a little bit from him about some of the deep dive activities that are still going on. Dr. Moroni, it's always a pleasure, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. Good to see you. Sorry we missed meeting in person a number of occasions lately, but I hope we'll recover soon in December, if I'm not mistaken.
Excellent. I hope so too. I'm hoping that you're going to come visit us soon. We're going to do a dive right here behind me, right?
Well, that's the plan, and I'd like to see it full of water since the first time I saw it empty a few years ago.
Exactly, and look at all the bubbles we have behind us. Fortunately, we don't have to decompress from those bubbles, but nonetheless, I think this location will be great for scientific research. We look forward to working closely with you and with Dan. You are doing some other research in other areas, I know, and I hope to hear a bit about that. I think our audience must know you, but I mean, with more than 250 scientific papers and tremendous contribution to the sport across the spectrum of diving and physiological monitoring, I could talk forever about your history, but I want to give you a chance to talk about some of the research that you've done recently, because we really appreciate that effort. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's hear what you have to say.
Thank you very much, Jared. Thank you for inviting me to this extremely interesting Community Day. And actually, I also have to thank GUE for contributing to a significant part of this research, especially with the group led by Mario Rena, who will follow me presenting. I will show you something that what we have done over the past 30 more years. And next slide, Nico, please. And I start with this picture showing what we knew when we had to rely on what divers reported to us in terms of what happened when a DCS hit them. As reported from divers through the emergency calls in those years, almost 20 years, divers did very little mistakes, and so they only admitted in 42% of the cases of decompression illness that there had been a mistake. That is, that they had broken the rules. And that obviously pushed us to investigate more. Next, please. And this you can only do by collecting and analyzing data, and by prompting and stimulating not only laboratory, but also field research, because we need numbers. And if you don't have enough numbers, you will not have enough data and interpretable data. Next, please. So we developed a system that allowed us to not only collect real dive data, that is a collection and interpretation, a computerized interpretation of the electronic dive profiles downloaded from the divers' computers, but also a system that would allow us to really analyze the decompression risk out of any dive. And we developed this diver safety guardian system that every diver can use and will feed back after the dive with information about the supersaturation of the leading tissues and the dangerous tissues and the dangerous compartments after the dive. And we developed some sort of a signaling system by smileys, as you can see, whereby the diver could have an idea of how much deco risk he ran during the dive, so that to monitor next dives better. Next, please. All this has been published in a first paper a number of years ago, where we could analyze 40,000 dives analyzed this way. Next, please. And now we have a bigger number of dives in the database. We are approaching 85,000, as you can see. And it's not simple dives. I mean, we range with depths from 5 to 192 meters at the time being, with average run time of 49. And so we cover the entire range of diving, including technical and rebreather diving. Next, please. The surprise that we got when analyzing these data is this. Where in the upper plot, you see the blue line going above 1, which is 100% GF gradient factor, so 100% supersaturation. That is over the M value, the famous M value according to Workman, Goodman, or Bullman systems. And you see that only a minority went above that in the blue line, and the blue lines correspond to those who suffer decompression illness, whereas the lower box plot with black line is those who did not have any problem after their dive. But if you see where the median value of supersaturation lies, you will see that those who suffer decompression illness actually had reached about 80% of the maximum allowed supersaturation of the tissues according to the compartmental decompression models, which is way below what used to be considered safe. Next, please. And the same, next, okay. And the same applies to the technical dives we had the chance to monitor. Even if the median gradient factor at the end of the dive was a bit higher, understandably, than the recreational diving group or the full group, let's say. So we had a median of 88 instead of 79% of the maximum allowed supersaturation of the leading tissue. We are still below the maximum allowed values according to the standard tables. Next, please. So when analyzing again the number of decompression hits we could examine in our database, and this relates to 320 cases, according to this new data, we could see that only 2.5% were deserved. That is, they went over the standard allowed limits. Whereas the others, according to the standard tables and the standard decompression algorithms, were undeserved. So clearly, there is something to do with the current decompression limits, recalculating them accordingly, and so that dives could be made safer. Another important thing that we're working on is what we call GFS, where S stands for surface, because, as you know better than I do, the GFI, the maximum gradient factor allowed, is something that is calculated when the diver leaves the deco stop. So the last meters of ascent are normally not calculated, but they can really provide surprises, because if you calculate the supersaturation at surfacing, it will be surprisingly higher than the supersaturation calculated by the model when you leave the last stop. And obviously that is what makes a difference. Next, please. This translates very well into how many bubbles the divers produce. If you look at this slide, you will see that high values of bubble, that is from 2.5 on the right end of this slide, do occur when the supersaturation, according to compartmental model, of the leading tissue at the end of the dive is over 80%. So this is no surprise and matches very well with the data that I showed you so far. So we started from this next and kept analyzing, and next slide please, Nico, and kept analyzing the issue. And but the problem is that so far all we could do was analyzing data before and after the dive, and we missed a very important part, and that is what happens during the dive. And if we can monitor something that during the dive can alter the safety of the dive itself. Next, please. So now we, staying with Jared saying, what is our mission for the next 10 years? We are now aiming at really studying what happens to the diver during the dive by developing methods that would allow us to monitor in real time the diver's condition when the diver is diving. Next, please. Let's take one variable, which is a very important blood variable, conditioning or being part of the safety of the decompression of a diver. And that is the presence of oxidated products of nitric oxide in the blood of the diver. Nitric oxide is a very important substance that is linked to the endothelial reaction to decompression and environmental stress. And it's a protective substance that is very much involved also in how we react to gas bubbles, how many gas bubbles we can produce, and how we can prevent, in a way, the bubbles from being too many or too harmful. Now, we know by analyzing the blood of divers that the pre-diving and post-diving values of the results of production of nitric oxide in the blood, that is a response to what happened during the dive, is not very different, because when monitoring the nitric oxide's contents in the blood of the diver before and after the dive, we see pretty similar values. You see the first column on the left and the one immediately right of the question mark. One would say that diving does not influence this very important substance that is one of the main protectors or substances involved in the decompression stress suffered by any diver when diving. But next slide. When taking blood underwater, and this is at the bottom of the Y40 pool in Padua, it's not as deep as the DD, but it's 42 meters deep, so it's quite deep. When taking blood at the bottom and during decompression and comparing the values of the same indicators or the same deco-stress markers, as we call them, with blood taken during the dive, next, there was a big surprise. There was a marked elevation of these markers, which indicate that diving per se, second column from the left, and decompression, third column from the left, related to blood taken at the bottom and at the deco stop, do have an effect on the reaction of the organism, because we do have a significantly higher marker and an elevation of this marking substance in our blood that indicates that there is actually a stress provoked by diving and by decompression. Next. Another study that we did with a Brazilian group of friends and colleagues related to the alteration of the heart beat, of the heart frequency, of the cardiac frequency underwater. Now, strangely enough, this alteration of the cardiac frequency is related to the stress suffered by the endothelium, and that is the layer covering the internal side of our blood vessels. And as I told you, the endothelium is the one related to the decompression stress markers, the nitric oxide markers that I mentioned before. Next, please. So we found an indirect way, without necessarily taking blood all the time, to monitor what stress was the endothelium suffering during the dive. And we tried to monitor that. And obviously, in order to monitor that, we needed to monitor the cardiac frequency, the heartbeat frequency, and the electrocardiogram during the dives. But wiring a diver, especially when deep diving, is a complex matter, and it's cumbersome and not even really safe. So we had to move to wireless data transmission, and wireless data transmission is actually the future. Next, please. So we had to choose the modality, a reliable modality to transmit data wirelessly from the diver to a monitor and to the surface. Bluetooth is a very common modality used, but the range of effective transmission is very, very, very little. So up to 30 centimeters, half a meter. Visible light is the best ever, even for the amount of data that can be transmitted, but has limits, such as, unclear water and so on. Sound is a lot more effective, even if the bandwidth and the amount of data is a little less. Because if you have a line of sight, you can transmit data up to 3 kilometers. So this is what we use. Next. And we started in the Maldives 2 years ago, before the pandemic, monitoring electrocardiogram and cardiac function underwater with what you can see was clearly a prototype of our underwater real-time monitor of physiological conditions of the diver, transmitting these data to the surface through an acoustic modem with a transponder on the surface. So we were actually having a wirelessly connected diver underwater, transmitting data to anywhere in the world, because when you are at the surface and you are connected to GSM or satellite network, you're actually able to transmit data anywhere. Next, please. This is a slide that shows what I got on my head, on my tablet and my phone from the Maldives, where every 5 meters I got information about the depth of the diver and his heart frequency and heartbeat, together with geolocation of the diver. And this was done wirelessly with the diver underwater, a transponder at the surface, and the transmission from the Maldives to Italy with geolocation of the diver, depth of the diver, and also heartbeat and heart frequency, so that we could actually interpret the data according to the parameters that I illustrated before. Next, please. So what we are developing is our vision, which is what I call accessible advanced diving telemedicine, where the divers could be monitored for not only his environmental condition, that is diving stress, diving electronic dive profile, diving risk analysis or deco risk analysis, but also physiological monitoring transmitted to the surface and from the surface to any place in the world, especially, for example, to a data collection center or to an alarm center. Next, please. So we are now developing what I call the AVATAR system. AVATAR stands for Advanced Virtually Assisted Telemedicine in Adverse Remoteness, but this is simply because I love the movie, and so I wanted to find a way to use the word by acronymizing it appropriately. Next, please. We are doing this, developing the prototype that you saw on in the former slides, and we call it DiveSense. This is a small thing that the diver can take with him or her underwater. It allows Bluetooth connection to the supporting application, and it allows for real-time monitoring, as I showed you. It can be connected to an emergency alert center. It can provide emergency alert during the diving. It can provide, by analyzing the dive profile, a best ascent guidance and post-dive decompression risk analysis. And it provides a very important thing, which is geolocation of the diver. This is already known by those of you who know the SUEX synapses thing, but this is the nice thing, is that this is a wearable device. Next. When connected to a sensorized, that is an intelligent wearable monitor, like this top that the diver is wearing, that can actually monitor triaxial body position, body temperature, electrocardiogram, breath rate, and oxygen saturation of the diver, together with other possible data if needed. This next, and connected with a portal that collects and analyzes all these data, so that anybody in remoteness could see what the position of the diver is, what the geolocation of the diver is, how the diver's heart is working, how the diver's lung is working, what is the oxygen saturation, and so on, allows for a complete monitoring of the diver before, during, and after the dive. Next, please. If the two systems are combined and the diver wears this sensorized, intelligent wearable T-shirt so far under a dry suit, because we are still working on making this waterproof, this sensorized top waterproof. We are getting close to it, but so far it works when worn under a dry suit. We have the ability to monitor both the decompression risk through the decompression risk analysis, or the dive profile electronic analysis, and the physiological data of the diver in real time during the entire dive. Next, please. So you combine the two things. You enter all these data into a dedicated app. The dedicated app of the diver's phone or tablet communicates through the internet with the diver, with the Dan Avatar portal, where all these data could be seen and monitored by any, for example, alarm center operator and so on, 24/7, wherever in the world. And that also includes geolocation, which is a very good thing for, to prevent any missing at sea divers and so on. Next, please. The sensorized top is able to monitor up to 15 megabytes per hour of continuous data transmission, physiological data transmission. The dive data transmission is significantly lighter. One dive weighs 10 kilobytes. 10 exported dives weigh 100 kilobytes, and they can be easily transmitted to the surface and to the Dan Avatar portal. And the nice thing of this portal is that it's website based. It only needs login and password, and it's now being made available in 4 languages, including Italian, English, French, and Russian. Next slide, please. Obviously, and I'm very proud of this, because diving becomes useful not only for divers, but also for any other sport or even medical condition, because this technology will also be very useful for other kinds of outdoor activities, such as sports and even activities in extreme environments. Besides, obviously, be also useful in telemedicine to monitor medical conditions such as, for example, the obstructive sleep apnea syndromes, diabetes, to improve the quality of home care and reduce the costs of public health. Next slide, please. This is what we are doing. This is what will be very soon available to the divers. This is what we hope to show at the next live dive shows that are planned for next year. And this is what we have been doing thanks to the cooperation of the divers. And I would like also to thank the GUE community, diving community, for having been very, very important in helping us collecting a number of data. And I would like to thank Mario Rena and his group for this, that have been really essential in achieving these results, and that will be essential in progressing with this field research project for the safety of divers everywhere. Thank you very much.
Very much, Dr. Moroni. That was really great. That was very interesting. I've got a million questions, but not enough time for a million. But it definitely tells me we need to sit down at a longer talk, either at GUE TV or when you come here next. One question we did have to come through: has any of the work that you've done, generally speaking, in the last several years with the work you did in Y40 with Mario and his group, has any of that caused you to rethink the adjustment of the gradient factor, particularly the deeper gradient factor that allegedly works to control bubble?
Indeed, yes. Indeed, yes. Data are coming in, and the relationship with the GF low and GF high are being re-evaluated. So the answer is yes. We are still studying on it, and Mario is being very functional in that, because they are really providing data with all the experimental dive profiles they are doing together with us. And I really do hope that it's a little more than hope, because we start having data, especially when putting together and integrating the deep values with the high values, and what we now are very interested in, and that is the surfacing value, which is actually what counts when making bubbles. You fizz when you come out of the water, but how much you fizz is determined by what you did from the bottom. You may not be surprised that at the bottom of Y40 in Padua, and probably we will do the same in DDD, we heard noises of bubbles, because we also have underwater Dopplers. We heard noises of something strange at 42 meters, which stands very well, which matches very well with that value of increased nitric oxide markers that we found at the bottom. Mm-hmm. So the residing per se does something to the endothelium, and this is where we have to focus our research on.
That's fascinating. We may not be able to take a decompression pill, but now you're working on a decompression vest that might help me stay safer in the water. I like that, and I think that's some great research. My last question is just, to any degree that you might be able to speculate with some sense, how individualistic do you imagine these issues? So either based on gender or just based on physiological parameters that might be unknown to us?
Gender is less involved than one may have thought. We used to think that gender was involved because we saw something that was indicating that the female gender might have been more susceptible to DCS, but not to producing bubbles. And this is the other interesting thing. The bubble production was similar across the genders, but the susceptibility to the hit was a bit higher in the female gender. When it comes to individualizing, that is the goal, because if we are studying, for example, heart rate variability as an indicator of endothelial stress, and that is the response to the diving stress itself, that is a clearly individual factor. And this is why we are so strongly focusing on individual monitoring and on something that would match the individual response to decompression stress with the normal calculation algorithms that are, for obvious reasons, an average value and not an individual value. So this is what we are focusing on now.
That's excellent. And with the personalized medicine development, it seems like there's a lot of potential to capitalize or to piggyback that activity. So that's great. I could talk to you all day, Dr. Moroney, to be honest, but we do have some other activities that we have to bring forward. Thanks so much for your time, your dedication to the sport. It's amazing.
Can I only ask you for one thing, Jared? Please call me by name, not Dr. Moroney. I'm Sandro, and we are both members of the academy. You know, we have the little three thing together in common. So.
Well, you know, I would say that we do that out of form of respect, especially in a public venue. But fair enough. You have my word. And you're owing us a dive here very soon. I hope to see you next month or November at the latest. Take care of yourself, and thanks very much for your contribution.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, take care. All right, great research. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I think that many of us could ask. It really kind of piggybacks on the early phase of everybody thinks deep stop's amazing and it's the only thing to do, and then everybody shifts away and no way, can't do it. My advice really remains to everyone, just kind of move cautiously in whichever direction you go. Prevailing research can swing wildly, so it's pretty interesting to see that develop. Okay, I'd love to bring on Mario Arena if we can. This kind of really pairs perfectly. My friend Mario.
Hello, John. Hello, everybody.
Excellent to see you, my friend. Very nice to see you. And really thanks for your work with, I'm going to call him Dr. Moroney anyway, at least in a public venue. He's done such great work that it's really something. We appreciate your support of him, because as well, we're learning a lot of great stuff. And you and I both have been pretty committed to long-term decompression research of our own. And I think learned a lot. So anything special you learned during those studies before we move into your talk?
Well, the thing that most hit me is the subjective variability between different people. So it's really clear that people respond in a totally different way to the same profile, to the same decompression. We are really different one from the other, and this is the most evident thing or clear thing that came through to me, at least.
Excellent. Well, thanks for making yourself a test subject along that process. I think it's important, and I know we've learned a lot, and we'll learn a lot more. So in any case, to welcome you formally, most of our audience, if not everybody, has certainly heard of Mario Arena, one of the most passionate, enthusiastic explorers I've ever known. Real joy in the water and loves exploring really more or less any place. Also a very passionate historical explorer, wreck explorer, finding many wrecks over the years, and a great friend and a great dive buddy as well. I'd love to hear what you have to say about Agadi. You're talking to us a little bit about the Battle of Convoys expedition.
Yeah, so I start with the Battle of Convoys because it was the first one during this summer. We have this project that reached the 13th campaign this year. We started it in 2006, and this focused on the wrecks related to the Mediterranean Battle of Convoys during World War II. It takes place in the central Mediterranean Sea, in High Sea, so in the waters between Libya, Tunisia, and Sicily. And we base typically in the island of Lampedusa because of its geographical position that allow us to reach these areas more easily. And this year we had a 1 month campaign with base in Lampedusa, and we managed to go out at sea for 14 days and 14 nights, and to hit a number of wrecks. at this moment, in the first year, the main focus of the project was to locate new wrecks, and we found actually we located and started documenting 44 shipwrecks in that area. And now we shifted our focus in trying to document them with some quality documentation. Is there a return of some kind, or
Is there what? I'm sorry?
a return? No. Okay. I hear something back. Okay.
No, you're good. I'm hearing you fine.
Okay. So we are focusing on trying to document them, let's say, the best possible way or as good as we can. Because 3 years ago, together with the Soprintendenza del Mare of Sicily, we decided to organize an exhibition for 2023, when the 80th anniversary of the end of the battle will be. And so we are trying to gather good material for such an exhibition, which will be a multimedia exhibition with historical materials and materials from the wrecks. So the wrecks are used as a mean for making this big story more actual, more modern. And so we this year we documented like 14 wrecks, mainly with high definition videos. And we started introducing also other means of documentation, like we experimented, we tried with a 360 camera, 3-dimensional, with encouraging results. So now we are motivated in investing in this technology. Also because the internal environment of several of these wrecks is really spectacular and is very well, let's say, represented with these immersive videos. And then for the first time, we tried to do the photogrammetry of entire wrecks, of entire ships, and we managed to do the photogrammetry of 2 big ships. And also this has been very encouraging. So next year we want to extend this to more wrecks. We started a collaboration already last year with the staff of researchers of the University of Kiel in Germany for measuring the pollution coming out of these wrecks in terms of chemicals coming out of the explosive, the many tons of explosive that many of these wrecks were carrying actually. As well as hydrocarbons and lead. And so we were taking samples from all of these wrecks, of water samples and sediment samples. And then another activity that we run has been that of taking off lost nets. So we collaborated with Ghost Diving and Healthy Seas on this. They supported the project with their knowledge about removing wrecks and also financially. And so we took off like quite a few nets from a few of the wrecks. It has been, we were like 15 divers, 15 GUE divers, including several instructors, mainly from Italy, from Germany, from Switzerland. Nothing, and it has been successful and a lot of fun, as you can imagine. One month of diving, full summer in the central Mediterranean Sea on beautiful wrecks. It is really a nice combination. After that, we moved directly to another island, which is the island of Favignana, where we teamed up with RPM Nautical Foundation and with the archaeologists of the Soprintendenza del Mare for the annual campaign, the title Battle of the Egadi Islands of 241 before Christ. And also that has been a 1-month campaign and very successful. There have been several, let's say, remarkable discoveries this year, thanks also to the use of AUV side-scan sonar from the University of Malta, which provided a number of targets to verify. And one of these targets came out to be an impressive, actually, Roman wreck, a merchant wreck, not related to the battle, but a ship that was carrying several thousands of amphorae in the same area of the battle. And other 2 targets were 2 more warship rams. These were RAM 24 and 25, so the number of RAMs found reached 25. Now, one RAM was a Roman RAM, the other one was a Carthaginian RAM, both of them really impressive and super nice. The RAM 25 in particular has a shape that we didn't saw before. So it looks to belong to a bigger ship in respect to the others that were found. We recovered 4 RAMs because we recovered also 2 RAMs that were found last year. We recovered them this year. And then as divers, we found, and it's another, let's say, important discovery. We found an area with a concentration of artifacts. This is how technically we call it, but practically is the place where a warship sank, most probably with casualties on board, and deteriorated until disappearing, leaving only plenty of artifacts, partially laying on top of the sediment, partially buried under the sediment. And so the investigation of this area took most of our work as divers. We spent there 14 days of the 21 diving days during the campaign. And we did a pretty nice archaeological work. We created a grid of 32 by 20 meters with sectors of 4 by 4 meters in order to inspect the whole area more rationally. And then we did the photogrammetry of the whole area and surveyed, georeferentiated each of the artifacts and finally recovered them to surface. So also Egadi has been, let's say, very successful and a lot of fun. And yes, and we plan next year, of course, for both projects to do even longer campaigns. So I'm trying to make it longer and longer year after year.
Pretty soon you'll just spend all of your time at sea. Yeah, that's the final goal. So on your Lampedusa projects, I'm very familiar with the island and not enough about the diving. As you remember quite well, spending an entire project on the island watching the wind blow. But you're normally staying out at sea through this time? So the 14 days you mentioned, is this at sea or are you coming back and forth at all?
No, back and forth. We typically go out for 2 days. It's sort of the standard excursion that we do. Sometimes it ends up being 3 days. But it's either 2 or 3 days. More than that would be really challenging because, as you know, we go outside with the fishing boats. With sleeping in sleep bags on the floor or on the roof of the cabin. So after 2 days, and 2 nights, when you get back to shore, you kind of kiss. Then you need to get a shower.
Kiss the land and take a shower, right? I can understand. That's great, Mario. Thanks so much. I mean, that's really inspiring work you've been doing for so long. Some great reports in the Explorer, and we look forward to continuing to see a lot of the great discoveries and seeing more and more of our community join them. Next year, have you already picked dates for the coming season?
Well, it will be summer, and I hope it will be from the beginning of June to the end of September. In different places.
I like it. So everybody look out for that as well. We'd love to see more and more people joining that are able to do a great project. Thanks so much. I have one person that would like to say hello, though, over here, that would like to say hi before you take a step away. And then we're going to answer some questions for people who have an opportunity. But I know somebody you know.
No.
You need to reserve me a spot next year. I don't care where. Which time, but I'm coming.
Absolutely.
Definitely encouraged. Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much, Mario. Great to see you, my friend, and hope to see you in person very soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye. All right. Really some truly inspiring work Mario has been doing for decades. So if you really do have the opportunity, I encourage you to join his projects. He runs so many good ones every year and so much great activity there. So I think now we have the opportunity to bring Dorada back, and we're going to answer a few questions. I saw some of them come in. One was, how often have I been bent and how often? Yes, unfortunately. Well, none of them evolved to be anything significant. Probably mostly because in the times that I did have a more severe case, I used in-water recompression as a treatment modality. So that's happened, let's say maybe 3 times in my career, and then a couple times, which depending how you define decompression sickness, but small, niggle kind of stuff, but nothing significant. So I saw that one question. Dorada, do you have some more that you think we need to cover?
There have been many questions for Dr. Maroni, but I noted them all. So
we asked the one about gradient factors. I did ask him, and I asked him the one about gender and individual susceptibility, which I think is a pretty big factor in the end. I don't know, gender, he seemed to say that in this case probably not as much so, but for sure individual susceptibility. I mean, that's true for everything, from food and drugs to anything else.
And I have seen it myself that when I have been doing dives with teammates, some of us did have minor symptoms and some of them had nothing. And the dives have been in a way kind of conservative. So definitely, so I'm really curious. And I hope that he will bring all of these experimental vests here so we can do some
so we can do some diving with it, absolutely, yeah. That's a really pretty cool evolution and neat to see. Together with Sergio's work, I'm not sure if some of you asked some questions. I saw a question or a comment about heart rate monitors and asking about the vest. I mean, there is definitely a growing amount of interest in heart rate variability as it pertains to an indicator of decompression stress. That is one of the things Dr. Maroni is looking at. Most of us who are athletic have been looking at heart rate variability for quite some time.
I remember one question now.
Please.
There was a question coming about development with GUE of side mount rebreather for cave diving. If there is any progress on that.
Yeah, it is. It's been moving a little slow with the pandemic, kind of limiting a little bit of every kind of movement. But we are definitely seeing some movement. Chris in Mexico, as you know, Zero Gravity Group are really taking the lead on that. And our friends there have been developing and refining the system, the training materials, and the standardized platform utilized. But I agree there's definitely a use, particularly in cave and then in some remote areas where really getting equipment in and out is quite difficult. So definitely there are interests in that. I did neglect to ask Dr. Maroni the NACID question about anti-inflammatories, which I definitely would like to get an answer as well.
Well, I think we need to plan for a live when he is here.
Yeah, absolutely. We need a much longer conversation. I had 100 questions for him right off the top of my head, so I'm going to definitely capture him. The NACID thing is really interesting to me. Those of you who might be following these anti-inflammatories, they kind of come on strong and then fade away repeatedly. And there have been some really long-range studies that have been very interesting in the athletic community, mainly with ultramarathon runners, really showing they didn't help at all. They were actually not at all conducive and may even have a deleterious effect or a negative effect on a runner's capacity. And the idea is really the inflammation is there for a reason, and it's a part of the protective process that's necessary. Now, I don't pretend to know whether that's also true in decompression. I'll be curious to ask Dr. Maroni what his thoughts are. But in athletics, it's definitely been shown not to be useful, at least in the research to date. So we have some other questions here. You want to grab any of these? How about skills and drills most critical to practice on each dive?
Buoyancy.
Buoyancy? All right. Buoyancy, buoyancy, buoyancy. Is that it? Okay.
If you have that one, nothing else is difficult.
Everything's fine after that. Yeah. Buoyancy, stable platform, and then you're fine after that. So I think the last time we had a live stream, we talked a little bit about the estrial valve drill being useful just because it's buoyant, stable platform in which you can be distracted while maintaining that platform and utilizing all the other skills. So I think that's
for me, if you practice, there's a way of practicing buoyancy, but you need to be, if you are able to be in mid-water at 3 meters and do complicated skill without moving,
then you're perfect. Yes. You're golden. All right. Well, you do that better than most I've seen. So, yeah, to be modest, it's okay. Okay, single videos on GUE TV. It's a good idea. We haven't really taken that step yet. it's conceivable, and I don't really have an answer myself. I would say that we're still really trying to focus on bringing as much value and quality materials as possible for the members. Ultimately, single use doesn't really ultimately support our ability to develop a budget needed. And we could talk, I guess, briefly about the propulsion series, which I could hear. I heard a pause in your breath, so you go right ahead.
What we would like to, what we have been developing for quite many years now, because the production have been along in the process, we created a series of videos that are related to body positioning in the water and how you can get to a proper trim and stay there without being, without effort really. So how you can develop your body capacity, your physical fitness, as we call it, but fitness is not really the ideal word, but how you can prepare your body to be in a proper position. And based on that, we added propulsion techniques. So we have created a series of 10 videos, of which from what I remember, 4 are talking about your body positioning, what exercises you can do to strengthen and lengthen some of the muscles that we need for proper propulsion. And then the subsequent videos are about each propulsion. So we have a dedicated video about frog kick, dedicated video about flutter, about helicopter turn, about backward kick, about weird kicks, or weird positioning. So what you can do, or what does it mean to be in control underwater? Because most of us are always thinking about perfect trim. Yes, if I'm like this, it's okay, but then the world turns upside down if you suddenly need to be like in this position or in that position, or if you're swimming through a passage in a wreck or a cave where you don't want to disturb anything. So there is a video as well about kind of tiny little weird techniques that you can develop as a diver if you have the capacity. So buoyancy first, as I said before, and then you can add on. So I would everybody encourage to watch that series. It's we are releasing 2 episodes at a time, and I think the next 2 will be coming next Saturday, because we didn't want to release anything today because we have this event. But
didn't want to distract it.
No, and then we will be releasing next 2. So watch out for those, because they are useful for students preparing for courses, for instructors to have a reference, or how to teach those kicks as well, because they are really very explained in a very big amount of detail.
Excellent. A real passion for both of us. Yes. And we really tried to dig into the details in this one. I think there are a lot of physical challenges from tight muscles, or a lot of times there's just weak muscles that people assume one is tight because they don't have any strength on the counterbalancing muscle. So we really spent a lot of time trying to make that clear and develop it, and we dove deep into those details. So we hope that you enjoy it.
And then I hope it's just the beginning. So I have some other ideas as well to film and produce out of this series. So it's just the beginning. Just the beginning.
I like it. So a couple of quick questions. For the side mount, so far we've really just been using the RB80/RBK, which is the smaller version of the RB80. But none of the work that's going on would really need to be mutually exclusive. So meaning the configuration and the organization. We haven't been testing or developing that as of yet on CCR or MCCR units to answer those questions. We have talked about releasing books not only as PDF and paper, but also as e-published books, as Kindle. Have not decided to take that step yet. I think it's the revenue share that is kind of gets us stuck each time. Fair enough, everybody needs to make their money, but ultimately as a small organization, that's an important part of our development, those kinds of revenue. I think that was the main stuff. Gradient factor, I would always just caution everybody to be a little bit cautious. And really develop this for yourself. The gradient factor low settings, a couple people have asked about, and that really does swing quite a bit over the years. Some people are pushing quite high gradient factor lows, and just move cautiously, folks. Anything else?
I have seen there a question from somebody asking if there is a projects for fundamentals taekwondo divers, and for sure they are. It depends on really what you call a project. If you'd like to be involved in archaeological Mario projects, then it will be potentially as a support diver or a surface support, because there's always plenty of things to do. It's not only carrying tanks, it's other things to do as well. But I'm planning as well to organize few trips for divers of lower experience or lower capacity. So let's say fundamentals, taekwondo divers, Rec 1 divers, Rec 2 divers. where we will contribute to either documenting or mainly documenting wrecks and then working on the reef, and it will be all in the Red Sea.
All right, that's some good stuff, and we really need more of those, I think, in the end of the day, and something that's hot on our mind. What about people just joining projects though for experience? I think that's a pretty important aspect. If your fundamentals are Tech 1 and you really don't have the opportunity to dive to those depths, you can still get a tremendous amount out of those projects. And we do have high on our considerations these aspects for people in the future, but don't be shy about trying to join projects where you can also learn a lot. And there are a number out there. We're working on a number of platforms now to try to make these a little bit easier to reach and to make people more and more aware of them. So hoping that we'll be better at that in the near term. And Dorada's learning some great stuff in Egypt as well. Okay, so maybe a quick chat. We're about to bring Belen on in a moment here. We'll have to see if she's ready in a second. Yeah, she looks like she's ready. We'll give a quick plug to the new fundamentals book. That was a lot of effort, right? That's relatively new. Multiple languages available. Explore magazine that some of you would have seen Richard and Jesper reading in the pool behind us quite recently. Those of you who came late, we are broadcasting live from Dubai in the Deep Dive Dubai pool. This afternoon, Dorada plans on giving a tour, so she's going to give a little walk around while we talk.
Get lost.
Get lost. I know that you're desperate to go over to the coffee. I can see you staring longingly. Okay, great. Thanks very much. I think we should bring Belen on, an actual rocket scientist. It's always nice to have one of those available, right? Originally started her GUE career in New Zealand and is now in Spain full-time. And she's really working to develop GUE in Spain. Hello, Belen. Great to see you. Of course. Yeah, you're welcome to stay.
Nice. Good to see you. And I'll go.
Okay, go get some coffee, right? Belen, a pleasure. It looks like you're muted at the moment. Oh, there you go. Nice. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Really nice.
Excellent. Welcome. It's great to have you here. I've got some rocket calculations for you, if you don't mind. If you could help finish those out for us. What are you going to talk to us a little bit about diving in Spain? There's such a diversity of diving that one can do there. I'd love to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah. So actually, I wanted to present you what the marvelous things we have here in Spain. As well, you've been here, and we have awesome caves, wrecks. Also, one of the oldest marine reserve in Europe. And yeah, so actually within only like half an hour, you can do all those dives in one day. We actually made it sometimes. Yeah, so starting with the marine reserve, we have, as I said, one of the oldest marine reserves in Europe. It's been amazing. It's full of life. Like you can watch sea bass is like actually bigger than me. Not that that's very hard, but
it's not a very big sea monkey.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, we've been seeing lately lots of barracudas, like big schools of barracudas and everything. The water right now it's as warm as 27 degrees, so it's quite amazing. And actually, also within that marine reserve, we have several wrecks. So these wrecks are ranging from 30 meters up to 70 meters. So actually one can do like the full range of fundamentals to Tech 2 dives. Great logistics for CCR as well. And then we have like the star of the crown that is Cueva del Agua, which is a hypogenic cave here in the region. We are diving it like almost not every day, but every week for sure. The water is 29 degrees. Is amazing being there actually.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, I love the diving there. I haven't had enough of it, but I think you have a quite diverse range. And thanks very much for all the work you're doing to develop the community there in Spain. You guys have got a great community, strong and developing. And I understand right now you're working on expanding it and you're teaching right at the moment, right?
Yes, actually I'm today is day 1 of fundamentals. I'm going to welcome 3 more team members for the community for Spain. Like I'm sure they will be great project divers as well.
Excellent. Well, thanks for taking a break out of your class. Apologize to your students for me. They have a great instructor, so I hope you guys have a good time and things go well. I'm a little worried for them on any mathematical parts, though, right?
Well, they are quite good at mathematics, so it's okay.
Okay, good enough. All right. Thanks again, Berlin. Wonderful to see you. Take care.
Nice to see you too.
All right. Bye-bye. So now, that's great to have Berlin coming in. I'd like to talk a little bit about our NextGen scholar. Annika is actually our first ever NextGen scholar. And for those of you not aware, this is a scholarship program that GUE developed right before the pandemic, like a lot of things that were under development. And we anointed Annika, excuse me, as our NextGen scholar, and then the pandemic set in. And that scholarship includes some travel money, classes. She can really work to develop herself, her diving skill, her research, and to travel around to various GUE communities and GUE instructors who are donating their time to support the scholarship. But she got locked down, so we really kind of paused that her scholarship program. And so now she's steadily getting re-engaged, and I'd love to see a little bit of activity from her. I understand we have a video and then hopefully a little hello from her. So let's see if we can play the video.
I'm about to do my first Trimix dive.
It's a perfect closing slide. Annika, great to see you. Big hug from all the way across the world. Such an effervescent personality you have, and to see your closing slide is perfect. How are things been despite the pandemic?
It's been good. It's been really, really good this year. Heaps of different projects going on. The community is really good. Unfortunately, we've just gone into a lockdown, so I haven't been able to finish Tech 1, but I'm really excited to start that up when we can dive again.
Oh, that's unfortunate. You finally got it scheduled, finally got it organized, and you were just starting. How many days did you get in?
I've just got the last 2 left. So actually just the last 2 fun days of Trimix diving. All the skills I've done.
All right. How is this another severe lockdown? So no travel at all?
Unfortunately, yes, but we were really lucky. We had almost a year completely free. We didn't really have any restrictions other than moving out of New Zealand. So it's been good. Hopefully it's nice and short and sweet. We're planning on going up the start of October to celebrate Jamie's birthday for our GUE Community Day when we can all start moving.
That's excellent. I'd love to ask you about all of your global travels associated with the NextGen scholarship, but that hasn't really quite panned out yet. We did at least get a chance to bring you over to Florida during our conference, where you got a chance to meet some of the community members there. It seemed to me quite a warm welcome from everyone, and I know you got a lot of people reaching out offering. Have you figured out where you want to go? Have you charted your course and your classes?
My plan is still to come over next year. I still really want to do my Cave 1, come to Florida and to Mexico, and then there's some cool projects that I'm hearing about that would be awesome to jump on board. So the plan is still to travel next year, fingers crossed.
Yes, okay. Well, we will cross our fingers. I think all of us would like to see a little bit more travel and a little bit more activity. Thanks for being such a great scholar. Even though you haven't been able to be as active as you want, we're going to find a way to get you all of the value out of your scholarship. It's been really wonderful having you on board, and we look forward to seeing a little more of you in person.
Awesome, that'd be great.
Take care of yourself. Thanks, Annika. Great to see you. Bye-bye. So that you're all aware, the opening for the next applications for the NextGen scholarship is towards the end of November. So if you know anyone or are such a person, young age, what did we say? What is the limit? Do you remember? Amanda, what's the limit for age? Somebody pop it on there for the NextGen scholarship. Not more than 30. That's really young. I mean, I can just barely apply at 29, so I'm going to try to get my application in quick. I know, I mean, speaking as someone who's just barely 30, I can say that we're not doing it as a way to sort of discriminate against anyone, but we're really trying, obviously, to develop the future. So we'll have to get that information to you. I'm sure it's on the end of November announcement. You'll be able to see and check it out. I'm going to go do that as well at my 29 years old. Okay, so thanks to Annika. Hope we get another round of great scholars. She was really a very strong contender among a tremendous number of great candidates, and we look forward to seeing those applications coming up soon. And let's talk a little bit about Scuba Digital. That'll be coming up soon in October, end of October 22 through 25. Which is GUE actively sponsored along with Dan, bringing in a range of speakers, especially this day and age. These digital kinds of shows are pretty critical. I think I'm still trying to go to DEMA, but it's always on and off again. Nobody can really tell, but we can be sure that Scuba Digital, almost sure, barring any kind of massive technological problem, that we're going to get to join our friends at Scuba Digital. So please do join us. The first 50 people that click the link, which is hopefully showing up any minute now, will be able to access that show for free, and I'm going to really want to see you there. So this is a pretty good offer. Thanks very much to Dan for their sponsorship of that initiative, allowing people free activity or entrance into Scuba Digital. We're excited to see that developing. Also do want to make one more plug for Explore Magazine. We got a lot of these great printed project reports, and I'd really like to see people get these out into the communities. There's a lot of great content in there as well, articles as well as history of activity and focus of some of the different exploration projects through the year. So we'll hope you'll click that link and go pick some up. And then I also want to let people know about GUE TV contest. That GUE TV contest was also on pause from the pandemic because we're really trying to get good quality video productions, and realizing that many people really couldn't get out of their house, much less into the dynamic environments they were hoping to capture. There's something like $1 million worth of prizes. Okay, something like $20,000 worth of prizes, but it's a lot, and a lot of great sponsors: Dan Europe, Fourth Element, Shearwater, Santi, Paralens, GUE, Halcyon, lots of stuff. Plus cash is available as well, and it's closing towards the end of this year, November 30th. So please try to put together some really compelling video. We'd love to see your submissions, and really excited about that project in general. Okay, we had a lot of stuff right at the end coming to you, as I said, from the Deep Dive Dubai pool here in Dubai. And we are planning a nice round of new guests in the next session this afternoon for us, wherever it might be for you in the world. We're bringing in a whole bunch of new people. We're also going to do a tour of this facility, which is a pretty unique facility. We're going to have Gerarda walk through. We've got a number of different guests. We're wiring in headquarters live. We're bringing in Sergio from Brazil. We've got Greece, Alaska, South California, Norway, lots of people from all of those areas. We've got a few video presentations also coming in. We got Michael Menduno in the house. We've got all kinds of great stuff. So I hope you'll join us soon. Sorry for dragging a little bit longer, and sorry for the early technical difficulties, but we look forward to seeing you very soon. Thanks all. Miss you. Hope to see you in person soon.